Stopped at Union. Alrighty, let's do this thing.
Do you want a man for president who's seasoned through and through, but not so doggone seasoned that he won't try something new? A man who's old enough to know enough to do. It's up to you. It's up to you. It's strictly up to you. Do you want a man with spirit who is not afraid to fight? A loyal man who brings a job a fresh new point of view. But it's up to you. It's up to you. It's strictly up to you. And do you deny to any man the right he's guaranteed to be elected president, no matter what his creed? It's up to you. It's up to you. It's strictly up to you. Do you like a man who answers straight, a man who's always fair? We'll measure him against the others, and when you compare, you cast your vote for Kennedy and the change that's over too. So it's up to you, it's up to you, it's strictly up to you.
Welcome back from my humble second bedroom here in the Saucon Valley, part of the Lehigh Valley, in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, part of these United States, North American continent, Western Hemisphere on this planet Earth, the only one. We have third rock from the sun in the Terran solar system, part of the Milky Way galaxy. This is the Kennedy Effect live, back with you for June 9th, 2024. We're more than halfway through the year, June 9, 2024, and it has been a gorgeous weekend here in the Lehigh Valley. Some quick little news for you as I clean up my computer screen. If things look a little different for you on the video end, I got very manic about a half hour before we were to take the air. And I remembered that I had purchased this HD camera. And it's sitting right on top of my big broadcast computer. And I had forgotten, I wouldn't say I had forgotten about it. I kind of remembered that I had it, but I had bought it to have a third broadcast position here in the studio. George was always planned to be to my right. He is not to my right politically, but at least sitting to my right, your left, my right. And there was going to be a third broadcast position right across the table from me where Kristen was supposed to be sitting on a regular basis or semi-regular basis. And that just never happened. And COVID happened, power problems, space problems here in the bedroom. And of course, now the bedroom looks like, well, I would say it kind of looks like one of those bad storage units from a TV reality show where there's a show about that, I think, where the folks like unknowingly bid on storage units, and then whatever they get in, whatever's in there, they get. And if it's all garbage, then oh well, they're stuck with garbage. If they find treasures, then they get treasures. But regardless, the rest of this room, the parts that you can't see, kind of look like a closet threw up all over itself. and it's really quite embarrassing. And I'm very, very glad that you can't see it. But that said, it probably would have forced us to keep this a hell of a lot cleaner if there actually was 3 broadcast positions in here. So I got in here today to start this program with you, and I looked at the screen, and I don't want to bore you with all this technical stuff, but I'm just George is not here this week, and if he were here, he would tell you that if I can do anything technical, it's nothing short of a miracle. I Our generation is not technologically illiterate, right? We're the ones that grew up with the internet, the first internet generation. I started working on computers when I was in middle school in the mid 80s, Apple IICs, I think they were. And so computers are pretty much with me since I was eighth grade, right? So I don't know, 13, 14. So we have grown up in this era, and we've seen a lot of change. But just the fact that I managed to get this camera set up is nothing short of a miracle, and George would tell you that. That said, I turned everything on here today to be with you, and I just looked at the computer screen. I thought, gosh, it looks terrible. It's very grainy. It just doesn't look good. Oh, I remember. I have that camera. Why don't I try that? And son of a gun, if it isn't working. That's something, man. I mean, that's really something. So here we are. So if I look, well, let me back up. It's a 1080p camera, which is essentially well, I mean, we now have screens in this country that are 1420 and I think even better. I don't know what would be up from 1420. I think there's a 21 something, but 1080 was for a good number of years in this country the highest standard HD quality you could get. Oh, 4K. 4K is the thing I was trying to think of. So 1080 still isn't really the highest quality you can get, but it's affordable. And I remember my friend, my dear, dear, dear mate from the UK told me, when 1080 TVs first started coming out here, that are you gonna go get one? And he said, no, I'm already well past that. In fact, in Europe, they're already probably 2 or 3 steps ahead of you because the EU doesn't allow companies to sell the same technology over and over and over again. They actually regulate such things to say, what's the best you have? You must sell that. You can't sell people the same thing every couple of years. But that said, it's a whole different topic for a different day about wow protections and regulations. Wow, isn't that something? But I get so if I look different, and if anything reinforces the fact that this is a face for radio, 1080p does it. But I was getting I was very fuzzy. I was very jumpy. I would freeze and jump, and this actually happened a couple times. I think the Mac is actually adjusting to this camera somewhat, even though this Mac in front of me is older, and it is actually gotten to a point where I can no longer update it. It does still kind of adjust to things that are connected to it. I think all the ports in the back are now taken up. But if I do look any better, please feel free to tell me. If you are looking at me and thinking, yeah, nah, very much a face for radio, you can tell me that too. Because I would agree with you probably. No, I would absolutely agree with you. But yeah, so if everything looks a little different and perhaps hopefully better, that would be why. So a tiny little bit of technical news, and funny that we've been away from you for 3 weeks, and it took me till the last half hour before I went live to figure out how to make this camera work. But such is the homegrown natural just generic, not generic, that's a terrible word to use for your own radio show. The homegrown, organic was the word I was looking for, nature of our program. So there's no George this currently this week. George is one of the best human beings that I've been blessed to meet, and who has been kind enough to remain a friend in my life when others haven't, and when others couldn't. Um, George is stuck in there. And I've told you all in this program a billion times now that when we decided to put this program together, George was the first one to say, I'm in. He never asked how much work it was going to be. He didn't ask if we were going to make money. He just said, I'm in. I'll do whatever you need. And so he's taking care of family this week. So if he gets to join us later in the program, that'll be a bonus. But right now, it's just you and I. So wherever you might be across the Facebook universe, and I will be able to tell you momentarily how many times how yeah, easy for me to say. I'd like to say how many shares we've done so far. 107. And I got stopped, of course, don't I always? So I'll be able to finish that probably around the 7 o'clock hour. The show announcements went out to 148 shares across Facebook, as well as Twitter. I'm still calling it Twitter. LinkedIn. Show announcements go there. Since they're all text, they're exceptionally difficult to share to Instagram. TikTok announcements went out. Very disappointed in the TikTok this week, but then again, to be fair to folks, I've been away for 3 weeks, and it's very, very easy to be ignored after that long. But a very, very exciting thing. Yeah, only like 100. It's telling me only 122 people looked at the promotional video for TikTok, which is terribly disappointing, but I'm not stunned. We've been away for a while. Our last TikTok promotional video was just under 1,700 people. This one was a little over 100. 17 times less. That's not great. But that's it. So yeah, I know that we've been away, and one of the worst things that you can do in this business, I guess I'll call it, this industry, this form of art, if you will, is be absent. But I had to be absent. Let me remind myself through the calendar, if I could remind myself as to why we were absent. So we had taken off for Mother's Day. We were with you on the 19th. May 26th, I can't remember why we weren't here with you. Like I genuinely can't remember, but we weren't. Oh, Memorial Day. It was Memorial Day. Last week, I had the honor, and it is nothing short of that, to continue to represent my county, Northampton County, the single most important electoral county in the entire United States. And I can get into why that is perhaps later in the program, at the Pennsylvania State Democratic Convention Committee meeting convention, right here in Allentown. So at least we didn't have to, spend money we did not have for a hotel room. But it took a lot out of me. I got up at 5 a.m. Friday. This is last Friday, not this past weekend, not the weekend we're in, a week ago. I got up Friday, May 31st, 5 a.m, went to work, worked for 4 hours, came home, changed, tried to do my best to take care of the dog, immediately went to this meeting, was up until almost 1, slept till 6, I think. Maybe less, because I woke up when I normally do at 5. I was able to get myself back to sleep for another 45 minutes to an hour. showered and immediately went back, and I was there till 4, and Kristen and I went to dinner. And when I woke up Sunday morning, I had planned to be with you last week. 9 minus 7 is 2, January 2nd. I had planned to be with you then, and I was just exhausted to a pretty scary point. I have been hospitalized previously for exhaustion. Your body just starts to shut down. I had the shakes. I felt nauseous. I couldn't eat. I couldn't drink. I couldn't sleep. Even being that tired, I couldn't sleep. I was sweating. This is not this, eventually Kristen took me to the hospital, and I was quite literally diagnosed with exhaustion. They pumped me full of fluids and electrolytes and vitamins and all of these things. And even then, the next day, it still felt like a truck had hit me. So Sunday, the 2nd, when we had planned to be back with you, was very close to that. I did not have the shakes. I was not so weak I couldn't walk. It wasn't any of that. I was just drained. I slept I think we went to bed Saturday night, and I knew I had done none of my promotions for the show. And we slept we were in bed. I don't know if we all slept, but at least 8 hours. It should have been enough. And all I wanted to do when I woke up was go back to sleep. I took a shower, I went downstairs, made some coffee, sat in my recliner, fell asleep. When I woke up, all I wanted to do was sleep more. And that is actually quite very much what my life is like right now, is that all I really want to do is sleep constantly, is sleep. And I just literally I just couldn't function. And so I had to not be with you last week, which is a bummer. And again, in this business, not being prompt, not being on your schedule can be a killer. And the number of folks who are watching is a proof of that, listenership is almost gone. People move on. We have short attention spans. But I would say, at least, to Randall and my cousin Dawn, who are in watching at the moment, thank you for being there. I didn't get a chance to type and say welcome, but welcome anyway. But I don't hide a lot here. I don't give you every gory detail of our lives, nor do you need it, nor do you want it, nor do you deserve it. But I do try to be very open with who I am, what we do here, because it is very organic. It is not making money. I'm not becoming rich. I'm not a star. I'm not I'm not getting calls from MSNBC to do hits there. I haven't been added to the Progressive Voices channel on TuneIn Radio. I haven't been, I'm not guesting with Tom Hartman. I'm not sub hosting for him. None of that stuff. But you deserve to know, for the loyal folks who are here live with me every Sunday evening, and then the very good solid number of folks who watch the recording throughout the week. You deserve to know where I've been, and that is where I've been. It has been work, my duties to the party, representing Northampton, and proudly doing so, and very humbly, I hope, doing so. And health have just, the last few weeks, really did me in. We were away Memorial Day, which is a normal thing for us. We had planned to be back with you last week, and it just didn't happen. But I'm well enough now, and I will ride out with you as long as I have any energy here, and I don't have much. It's the same thing again this weekend. I can't understand it. Kristen and I have actually slept quite well this weekend. It's been beautiful here at night. It has been, the humidity has gone down. It's been cool at night, almost fall like, not quite that chill, but dry, a nice breeze. We've had the windows open. We've been able to turn the AC off. We've slept really quite well the last couple of nights. And still, I woke up this morning, I think, after being in bed. Oh, sorry. I'm going to sneeze. Almost 10 hours. And I took a shower, made coffee, let Daisy go outside, and all I wanted to do was go back to sleep. So I don't know what's happening other than the fact that I will be 55 soon. And maybe life has just caught up. Maybe life's just caught up with me. I don't know. Um, my body is tired, my brain is tired. My body is tired and broken, and maybe it's just running out of steam. I don't know, but here's what I can say. I'm very glad to be here with you, humbled to be here with you. Some of the regulars that are in watching right now, I hope you'll continue to share the program. Have faith in me and us that we will continue to be here. As long as my health holds out, I'll be here. They probably need to get the boss to be up here a little more with me and help me carry these shows. I'm getting probably boring the crap out of you in my long rants, but so that's where we've been. So let me get to the business end of the program. Only 21 minutes in. Let me get to 20 minutes in because I wait till 6:01 to click. Let me get to the business end of the program before Facebook stopped me again. I was able to share out to 100. What did I say? 107, 104, whatever I said earlier. Groups, including a ever growing number of Facebook groups that are surrounded within the topic of internet radio. We've now increased. I haven't exactly done the math. I've done it very loose math in my head. If I add up again all the groups that we now or that we are now members of, we the program, we the program, because they are the same thing. We're coming up on 750,000 worldwide. It doesn't mean that 750,000 people worldwide are listening to me right at this moment, but we can get to them. We can reach them. And that's a cool thing. So we shared to 107, I think I said before, places. We got stopped after 7 o'clock. I'll be able to finish that list. And we will reach between Hot 101, TCP, and the YouTube and Facebook. We're coming up on 750,000. That's very loose math. I should probably do that math legitimately and make sure that I have an actual number for you. But I think that's about where we are. It could be less than that, though. It could be 700,000, not exactly 750, but roughly. So to every single group, large, small, local, regional, statewide, national, global, be whatever your topic is that you've been kind enough to allow me and then by extension the program to be part of it. If it's a political group, a radio group, community activism, whatever it might be, to every single one of you who allow us to put this in your piece of the Facebook universe, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. We simply could not be here without you. We are humbled and we are very, very, very grateful. However, and you can stay right where you are and watch. I will do my very, very best. If you have live comments, live questions, whatever it might be, in any of the groups where I have been allowed to share, I will do my very, very best to keep up with those. However, if you want to reach me much more directly, please come to my Facebook. My name is right in the lower left-hand corner of this screen. Find me on Facebook, come there, ask questions, drop comments, anything that you want, interact with me. I love NPR. It is an exceptionally valuable service. It continues to be ruthlessly independent, despite the fact that NPR no longer receives, I think they receive no government funding anymore. Republicans have completely defunded public radio. And they are dependent entirely on corporate, private member and corporate donations, and yet they continue to be fiercely independent. We love NPR, but this is an NPR. I don't want to lecture you. Please call, comments, questions, disagree with me. Agree with me if you want. Disagree with me. Great. Let's talk with each other, not at each other. So wherever you are across the Facebook universe, I'll do my very, very best to keep up with your comments and questions if you have any, or you can come to my personal Facebook page, Jeff Kennedy. I will see your questions, comments immediately, and we can stimulate the discussion and push the discussion along that way. Hot101.net, our name is our web address. One of the creators, originators, keystones, cornerstones, foundations of global internet radio, hot101.net. If you can connect to the internet below, on, or above earth, anywhere, anywhere, anywhere. If you can connect to the internet, you can listen to hot101.net, and you damn well should be listening to it. Hot101.net is the home of organic, local things like this. People, talented people who are, and I'm not putting myself in the talented list, talented people who just want to bring what they do best to you, and you should be listening to it. Check them out, hot101.net. Our name is our web address, desktops, laptops, tablets, phones, Bluetooth it to speakers, headphones, earbuds, Bluetooth it in the car, which I don't think enough people do, by the way. Bluetooth it in the car. It's a great place to listen. We all listen to the radio when we're driving. Why not listen to hot101.net? You should be 24/7. I almost said 24/7 hours a day. Not what I meant. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It's always there and always going. Hot101.net. Check it out. Oh, of course, let's not forget, by the way, that you can tell Alexa to play hot101.net. We're also part of the TCP Media Group from Lancaster, PA. Continues to be an exceptional force of news, information, change, activism in the Lancaster community. But of course, once you're on Facebook, you're international. You should be checking them out as well, the TCP Media Group. So that's the business end of the program for now. Let me quickly say, Randall was waiting for the show to start at 6 p.m. I always do 1 extra minute. I go at 6:01, just in case the folks on Hot 101 before me are playing and they can't quite finish in time. There might be a lag or something like that. So we do 1 extra minute. 6:01 is usually when we hit the button. Randall's still on about What the Hales. I have not watched it, so I can't comment. About the buying storage units. Yeah, he's right. Yeah. I think that, yeah, that was, there's another one though. That was on the History Channel or True TV, something like that, about storage unit treasure or something. I don't even know why I'm trying to think of it. Yeah, so that's about that for now. I'm glad that you're here, and it's important to me that you're here. Please remember too, by the way, if you miss any of the program, the best place to see all of it in its entirety, beginning to end, sharing pre-show boringness all the way through to the end, whenever that end is, youtube.com. youtube.com/that other side of information. Please check it out. It's the best place, easiest place to watch everything that George and I have ever put out. I think there might actually still be some test shows on there too, and they're ridiculous. They're ridiculous. They're silly and stupid, but fun all at the same time. Check it out. youtube.com/that other side of information. And I know this might be a little easier to read now. I'm not sure. My eyes are terrible, even with these glasses. So as I look into the screen, this does look a little fuzzy, but hopefully you can read it. We are on Twitter, X, Twitter, whatever. The X Twitter, known as Twitter. At That Kennedy Talk. Our email is thatotherkennedy@gmail.com. Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Patreon, and TikTok. Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Patreon, and TikTok. Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Patreon, and TikTok. All that other side of information. Try to make it easy. Try to make it uniform. That's where you can find us, and where you can keep up with the program, keep up with announcements, things that we're doing here, articles. Sure, I shouldn't say short videos, because I really need to start doing them. Sergeant Mac has really been beating me up that I need to start doing these 2 and 3 minute short things during the week. But that's where you can find everything surrounding our program, that other side of information on all of these different platforms, and we hope that you will. Phone line is open as well, since there's no guest. It's you and I, you and me, Earth, you and me, planet Earth. It's us. So I hope that you'll become part of the program. Randall's already dropped in some comments. It's really awesome to see my cousin here. They're so loyal and loving. I should be doing a much better job of spending time with them outside of this show. I shouldn't be communicating with them through this show. I should be spending time with them outside of the show. That said, let's get to it. The phone line's open, 267-227-9189, 267-227-9189. One other piece of news that I want to bring you. This show is growing. And I don't just mean in the number of people watching and listening to it. It is going to be growing and expanding beyond the 3 hours that I am with you on Sundays. Beginning July 1st. Beginning July 1st, barring anything unforeseen. Silence, deadly. I was responding to a comment. I shouldn't be doing that. Barring anything unforeseen, technical problems, power problems, health problems, barring anything unforeseen, this show is going to be growing exponentially starting July 1st. I almost said June 1st. How stupid was that? June 1st happened last week. This show is going to be growing. Beginning June 1st, show will become a 5-night-a-week program. Not going to exactly announce when, I just announced when. That was kind of a dumb thing to say. The brain is not functioning. I've been away for too long. I'm not going to exactly say where quite yet. I will do TikTok and other announcements as to where we will be able to be found during the week. We will remain with you here on Sundays on hot101.net and everywhere else that we share the program. But the program is growing rather dramatically. And starting July 1st, Monday, July 1st, from 8 p.m. is the current plan. Might change to 7. I have to check with George. But 8 p.m. in all likelihood. The Kennedy Effect tonight will join you. TKE tonight. An hour program of what we do here. Probably even less guests. Or if we do have guests, they won't have to stay as long, or at least feel that they have to stay as long. Phone calls if we have time. Always comments and questions. But we'll be here with you Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 9 p.m. The Kennedy Effect tonight, I think, is what we're going to go with. TKE tonight begins July 1st. And I will be here with you every week night from 8 o'clock, so long as my schedule allows. What does that mean? It means that as a part of Democratic State Committee, I have a duty to go to every Democratic meeting throughout Northampton County that I am physically, health-wise, able to attend. And of course, those happen on weeknights. Some of them I can Zoom, and I can just quietly beg out at 8 o'clock and be here with you. Some I need to be in person. So those will be nights that we won't be together, but that's okay. There are other folks who can sit in this chair. There are other folks, well, maybe not this chair because it's dreadfully uncomfortable, but there are other folks who can be here with you when I'm not. And you'll get to meet all of them very, very soon. I'm going to put a link, if I can do it correctly. I'm going to put a link in the comments of this program, and you will be able to check out what's coming. I don't want to get too deep into it for now. And I think the important part, especially to my hot101.net family, who means more to me than they know, we're not leaving. We're going to do both. For a while, we're going to do both. as long as I'm physically and health-wise able to do so. We'll do both. So we'll be here with you on Sundays, but we're now also going to be with you weeknights for a quick hour, 8 to 9, beginning July 1st. So stay tuned to all of our social media, all of it. Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. I just went through all of it. You know what I mean. Stay tuned and you'll begin to learn more and more and more as we move along. In fact, I will try to put that. Oh, I closed it. Why did I do that? Why did I do that? That wasn't too smart. You nut. Ah, God in heaven. Why would I do such a thing? Let me put that. We'll put that in here. So check out comments section of this program and you will find a link there. And that's where you can learn what's coming. So again, the Kennedy effect is expanding dramatically. Beginning July 1st, we will now be with you 5 nights a week, or as many nights as I can do, from 8 to 9. And we will remain here with you on Sundays from 6 to 9 or less if I can't physically do it. On hot101.net and all the places across Facebook. So stay with us. The show is growing and we want you to be part of it. That said, let me get to the some of the things that I wanted to talk about. So I have not been with you, obviously, since the verdict in the election interference trial in the Southern District of New York, Manhattan Federal Court. Again, I think the last time that I was with you, I made this point. This is a very, very important point. And not just from a messaging point of view or a campaigning point of view, but because it's the truth. This is not a hush money case. Hush money is a component of the case. Why was the hush money paid? Why did Trump pay Stormy Daniels to keep her mouth shut? Because he feared if her story came out, he would lose the election. That then becomes an election interference case. It is not a hush money case. It is an election interference case. And we had a verdict in that case. Trump is now a convicted felon 34 times over. And let us remember, one of the odd fallacies about the judicial system in this country is the idea of the quote unquote jury of your peers. Well, a jury of your peers in this type case would then be 12 jurors and 6 alternates of billionaires, political people, media people, mafia people, since Trump continues to carry himself like a mafia figure. So there's not really a direct, you're not probably going to find 18 of those folks who are going to sit in judgment of him. So 18 New Yorkers, 12 jurors, 6 alternates, sat for 3 weeks plus of motions, arguments, Trump falling asleep. At least one of the jurors in their vetting, interviewing process to be selected for the jury, openly said, I get my news from Truth Social, Trump's social media platform, his Twitter-esque copy. This juror, and the juror was still chosen and seated and was one of the 12 that decided that he was guilty on all 34 counts, all of them, straight across the board, all of them. A self-identified person, open court, said under threat of perjury, during the vetting process, I get all of my news from Truth Social, which means I get all my news from Trump and his sycophant followers. And even that person voted. Because remember, it has to be unanimous. Even one juror can create a hung jury. It must be 12-0. And even that person said he's guilty 34 times over. All 34 counts, a clean sweep. There wasn't even one count where they could not come to a decision or one where they said not guilty. Straight guilty all the way through, all 34 counts. Now, we're 2 weeks removed from that decision. And I mentioned in several conversations with my political family, with George, with the family of this new venture that begins July 1st, that I had set the over under at about 3.5 weeks before one of the jurors was either murdered or assaulted viciously. We're 2 weeks in and it hasn't happened yet. And I pray with every fiber of my being and all of my belief and faith that it never happens. There are some things on this program that I love to be wrong about. I want desperately to be wrong about this. But I know that some of the jurors' home addresses, places of work, siblings, family, some of those names, not all of them yet from the last time that I had seen reporting, not all of them, but some of their very personal information's already been out in the internet. They've been doxxed, apparently is the term for it. What the kids use these days when they're dancing to their Elvis Presley and so on. That they got doxxed, that their addresses, places of work, places of worship, who their kids are, spouses are, family, are already out there. And I have not seen any reporting as to whether these folks have received police protection yet. I hope so. I hope I'm desperately wrong. I hope no one ever finds them. I hope no one ever confronts them. I hope no one ever attacks them. But the evidence from Trump's 2016 since he started trying to tell us all how Barack Obama was not a real American. Well, probably going back to when he demanded that the Central Park Five be executed in public. This man craves, loves, adores violence. He believes that violence is legitimate political speech. The only reason someone would put the addresses of these folks out is to get them attacked. Now, I have not seen reporting that it has happened yet. I have to imagine that it will be just a worldwide story if or when it happens. It took about 10 days for them to get doxxed. I put the over-under at 3.5 weeks. And it hasn't happened yet, and I hope it never happens. Dear God in heaven, I hope it never happens. Desperately, I love being wrong sometimes. Boy, I love being wrong. I really, really hope I'm wrong about this. But I think that's the next chapter in this. What happens to those good Americans who did their civic duty, who sat in that jury box, listened to all the evidence, and came to this conclusion? I hope nothing happens to them, but I fear that it will, because that has been the hallmark of Trumpism. Hate, violence, intimidation, retribution, retaliation, anger. I said hatred. racism. There are many, many things to deride, to criticize the Republican Party for, or the former political party known as Republicans. The frightening thing is that they have been, we could have political arguments about policy. I think we should cut taxes for the rich. I think we should raise them. I think we don't spend enough on defense. I think we spend too much. I think we need to spend more on education. I think we need to privatize. These are policy and directional, direction of the country discussions that we can have. But the saddest thing that you can say about the degradation and eventual end of the Republican Party is that a man with no principles whatsoever, with no policy initiatives, no policies, no real core beliefs other than what's good for him and his love of money, has taken over the entire operation. What do Republicans stand for now? I could probably sit here with you and never turn this stream off for weeks before somebody can give me an actual answer that I cannot refute. Here's what Republicans now stand for, whatever Trump is thinking that day. The list of what they stand against is lengthy. You might need a roll of toilet paper to fill it all out. What do they stand against? Everything the Democratic Party stands for, everything the Green Party stands for, most of what the Libertarian Party stands for, anything that's good for the bottom 99%. And that's a long list when you break that down. But that's not something that you stand for. It's what they openly stand against. They really can't tell you what they stand for. And they've allowed one man, won 4 times over, 6 times maybe. I should Google that quick. It's either 4 or 6. Declared bankrupt so-called billionaire who somehow can't seem to do anything without other people's money, but yet somehow he's a billionaire. Take over the entire party. Take over the entire operation. From the spending to the fundraising, to the messaging, to the functionality of the party. He and his henchmen have turned what used to be a political party into a mafia organization, where goals are achieved through threats, retaliation, retribution, violence, the threat of violence. Lovely shop you have here. You should probably pay us in protection money. Hate to see it burn to the ground. I mean, we've watched these movies. It's exactly what we're watching now. It's a bad, bad mob movie. It would be entertaining if it weren't true. And the truth of it, the reality of it, is what makes it more and more sad. Is that the planet's oldest democracy is this close to having one man decide what all of us will do. This close to having one man end that democracy simply because he's mad at some other people. Because mom took me to the grocery store. I sat in the cart for an hour while she filled it. We got to the checkout and she wouldn't let me have a candy bar. So what does this verdict say about the judicial system? What does it say about our country? I, unlike many of my compatriots, was not overjoyed at this verdict. I found it sad. On the one hand, I think it was exceptionally justified. He is guilty. We all knew he was guilty. The bits of the evidence that came out as we led up to the actual court trial, you knew he was guilty. All you had to do was listen to Michael Cohen. You knew he was guilty. All you had to do was listen to Stormy Daniels. You knew he was guilty. So on the one hand, I find this to be a great justification and arguably a restoration of faith in the American judicial system. That's why Trump attacked it, because it worked. On the other hand, I found it sad. There's a part of me that found it sad. I have no love for Donald Trump. I have no love for anything that he has done for this country. I have no love, believe it or not, as staunch a Democrat as I am, I have no love for what he's done to end the Republican Party. Democracies demand two parties. I have no love for what he's done to the Republican Party, none. But yet I still found it sad. Even though Donald Trump lost the 2016 election by 6 million votes, he did win the Electoral College. That's how our system is set up. That's how the framers designed it. So he was elected. I wasn't happy about it, but he was elected. He won the Electoral College. It is a way to win the presidency without having the most number of people vote for you. And he didn't, by 6 million people. Whatever you think of Mrs. Clinton, 6 million more people voted for her than him. But he won the Electoral College. He won the states he needed to win. And in 2020, despite being outvoted by 8 million, it's only about 80,000 people in 5 states that determine the Electoral College for President Biden. That's why we need to get rid of the Electoral College. When 8 million more people vote for you and you still come within a whisper's breath of losing, that's not democracy. That's a racist holdover from the Confederacy. All that said, the man held the position. He sat in the White House where only 44 people before him sat. I don't want to see a former president convicted of these kind of crimes. I would have rather seen him convicted of these kind of crimes while he was in office. I would have rather, even more, seen him convicted of these kind of crimes before he ever got there. Because for those of us who lived in the New York area, we already knew what he was. The shock and outrage and revelations that came to the rest of the country, oh, wow, this is really who he is. We all knew that in New York and northern New Jersey and the Connecticut, the New York metro area, which, by the way, is about 40 plus million people in the New York metro area. Northeast New Jersey, New York City, Long Island, Staten Island, the southwestern corner of Connecticut, Rockland, the upstate New York. About 44 million people. It might even be more now. It was 44 the last time I knew. We knew exactly who he was. And you didn't listen. The rest of the country didn't listen. And Trump himself did a very good job of dispelling all that to places of the country who never knew him. He did an excellent job of defining who he was. And even though I agreed with nearly nothing he did in office, the one thing I do agree with him on is tariffs. The man is objectionable. He's a Neanderthal. He wants to be restored to the position in this country, to the highest office in the land, at the same time that he hates about 3/4 of the people in it. I will not let you forget through the course of this election cycle that about a month ago, he had a closed door fundraiser with oil executives where he told them, give me $1 billion, you can do whatever you want. You can go in and rewrite the environmental regulations. I'll do whatever you tell me. You can do whatever you want. Just give me $1 billion for this campaign, and I'll let you do whatever you want. So to all the poor Southern whites, to the angry Hispanics, to a shockingly large number of African Americans, does that sound like you? Are you an oil industry billionaire? Do you really think this man cares about you? But at the same time, he held the office, what is supposed to be the most esteemed office in our land. And he got convicted of 34 felonies. In a way, as an American, as a believer in our system, it's sad. But at the same time, it's justice because he was guilty, is guilty, not was, is. He is guilty in the documents case. He's guilty in the January 6th case. He's done an excellent job. He's guilty in the case in Georgia. We all know it. He's done an excellent job of delaying those. He couldn't stop this trial. All the games, all the shenanigans, all the, temper tantrums in court, he couldn't stop it. And look what happened. 12 jurors and the work and dedication of those 6 alternates, they were there for the whole thing too. Even though they didn't vote ultimately on the verdict, they were there for the entire thing. These 18 people, citizens, Americans, including one that did nothing but watch Truth Social. I can barely say it. I don't know why that is. Who admittedly said, I get all of my information from Truth Social, Trump's platform. These people voted 34-0. Guilty, 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 guilty. Here's the ultimately most frightening point of this. If it was anybody else, if it was Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, Nancy Pelosi, Mark Pocan, Adam Schiff, Ro Khanna, Susan Wild, Matt Cartwright, Ruben Gallego, if it was anybody else, their lives would have been over. Their political careers would have been over. They'd be jokes, outcasts, pariahs. So what happened to Trump in the 72 hours following? He raised $60 million. That's the disease of Trumpism. That a man fairly, legally, openly convicted of 34 state felonies benefited to the tune of $60 million. And remember, he puts a part of that in his pocket. He puts a part of that in his pocket. He runs the RNC. Part of that money goes in his pocket. So in many ways, I can make the argument, I think, with you that as sad as the actual verdict itself is, perhaps the real wound that has been exposed is that he raised $60 million off of it. Not that he had to end his campaign, not that he had to walk away in disgrace, not even that he had to flee the country and run away to Saudi Arabia, which is my guess as to where he'd go. Or not that Putin somehow extracted him from the country. It's that he actually raised money off of it. And a damn lot of it. 3 more trials to come. And if the same justice holds in New York as it does in those 3 other cases, he'll be a nearly 100-time convicted felon. When is enough enough, folks? For the Trump followers, not supporters, followers that are out there, when do you look in the mirror and say you deserve better? Because you do. "7:02, entering the second hour of the program. Kennedy Effect back live with you for the 9th of June, 2024. I have thrown out a rather large net of invitations for folks to come join the program and just have a chat tonight. Clearly, no one has done that, but perhaps they will before we're done. Other than that, it's you and I. Phone line is open, 267-227-9189, 267-227-9189. From the, well, I should be able to finish my sharing now that it's after 7 o'clock. Nearly 150 places on Facebook we've shared the program to. Reach is now up to around 700,000 people between all of the outlets that we are a part of. Wherever you are, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Can't do it without you. Cannot do it without you. Thank you so much for allowing us to be part of your social media world. And again, Facebook owns all of it. I get it. But you know what? When you create it, in my mind, it's yours. And if you allow us to be part of it, then I'm humbled and grateful and thankful more than you know. We couldn't do it without you. If you want to comment, question, argue, yell, scream, agree, disagree, tell me the new camera makes me look even worse. Could probably make that argument. Tell me. I will do my level best to make sure that I keep up with your comments and questions. If you want to get to me directly, where I will see it straight away, Randall is here. George is watching. Thank you, my friend. It means everything. Thank you. Come to my Facebook right in the lower left. I'm pointing to it like you can see me doing it, which is, I don't know why I continue to do that. So point to it like you know what I'm doing. Bottom left-hand corner, Jeff Kennedy on Facebook. Just search it. Come to my home Facebook. You'll find the show there. I will see your comments and questions. I will do my best on my end to keep up with them. If you are watching at a different group location, page location, and you decide to comment, and I hope that you do, I'll do my best to do that. If I miss you, however, please don't think I'm ignoring you. I just might miss it. But come on over to my home, my personal Facebook, Jeff Kennedy. I'm there. That's where I see your comments and questions, and I hope that you will decide to do so. Our home group Facebook page is that other side of information. The show is live there now as well. You can come there all during the week and find all the things that we are working on, the articles that we post. And they're not all political articles. There are science articles, environmental, and even animal advocacy articles in there as well. Every furry family member that's ever graced me with their love and loyalty has been a rescue, and I hope that you will do the same. Don't buy, adopt. We do animal advocacy, easy for me to say, on the program as well. So I hope that, oh my goodness, I just realized something. I'm telling you all to call, and I didn't turn off the do not disturb. That was pretty stupid, wasn't it? Wow. Crazy. Gosh almighty. Did I do that? I sure did. That's pretty silly. Okay, so I'm gonna bore you more with some some dumb technical stuff. Thank heaven Google Voice has a feature where you can turn it off when you don't need it. I get Google Voice calls all week. I even get calls from people watching the program on a recording and they think we're live. And I'm at work. I can't answer them. A lot of spam calls, a lot of marketing calls. So you can turn it off. As I started the program tonight, I forgot to turn. Oh, see, this is what happens when George is not here. I forgot to turn the do not disturb. I would be funny if it wasn't true. It's funny, but it's not. It's funny, but it's sad. So because I'm not that well, maybe I am that stupid. Maybe I'm just maybe I'm just. Oh God in heaven. Anyway, area code 601. I have no idea who this is. Usually I know when it's Randall. 601-644. What's your first name? Where are you calling from? Have at it. Are you there?
Hello, can you hear me?
Oh, I can now. What's your first name and where are you calling from?
My name is Mike, and I'm calling from Meridian, Mississippi.
Mike, welcome.
Hey there. I called a couple of minutes ago, and I got like a Google caller.
That's because I was
that's
because I was a goof and I forgot to turn the do not disturb off. But you called back, and your patience is please understand that your patience is I'm very grateful for it. It was a dumb technical thing that I did not do to start my own program, especially when I'm encouraging folks to call. But thank you for your patience and thank you for calling back. You're very kind. So please tell me what you wanted to talk about. Let's have a conversation.
Well, I listened to most of the first hour and talking about Trump and his supporters. I am technically a poor white guy from Mississippi, although I've been a Democratic voter my whole life. It's
thank you for that. It can't be easy down there.
Well, it's a kind of there was a guy, I think, on National Lampoon called it futile and useless gesture. It feels like every time I go and vote at the little volunteer fire station. A lot of times I go there and the area must have a couple thousand people registered to vote, maybe 50 Republicans and maybe 2 Democrats come in and vote, no matter what the election is.
Right.
So the voter turnout is awful.
Right.
And I live in this sea of MAGA people and Trump supporters, and I get unfiltered, unwanted, I guess I should say, opinions from people. I was, until last October, I was an assistant manager in a office supply store, and people would come in and look at the prices, printer ink, and things like that, and say, this is Biden's fault, and before that, I worked in a Lowe's, and people would come in and blame the high prices on Obama and then say racist things about him, say somebody should kill him, all those kind of things. I guess because they mistake me for one of their own.
Right.
Visually, I'm a gray-haired guy with a beard.
Right.
But I was thinking about what you were saying about Trump's support. And I think when you go back and look over time, in the last 40 plus years, there used to be a time, and I remember sort of from my childhood, when Walter Cronkite would go, and that's the way it is, at the end of every broadcast.
Right.
I think people kind of, they may have disagreed about policies and politics, but the country was united. And as soon as Reagan came in and started, using that evangelical vote from the South, especially, which is the Electoral College, the southern states get way more electoral votes than the population really
the small states in the Confederacy are, and I don't say the old Confederacy because the Confederacy still exists and it still operates in a block, are disproportionately represented within the Electoral College, and it was designed that way. It was just like the Great Compromise of a bicameral legislature, 2 senators per state, and then another house, no pun intended, of population-based representation. The Electoral College was something that the framers needed to get the South to sign on because they weren't going to. And
right, and it's the same in the West. I mean, if you look at all those very empty Western states like the Dakotas and Utah and all those Western empty states, as I call them, don't have big populations. They have more senators than California, which is the most populated state, I think, still in the country.
It is, and I believe, I mean, I can Google it quick, but the last I knew, the population of California was, I think, 54 million, somewhere in that. And California has the population of, oh, geez, I used to know this stat, 23 other states combined.
Yeah.
Right? So there's 46 senators by states compared to 2, but the populations are equal.
Right.
Now, it would take, as you well know, I'm sure you do, and for those who may not, it would take a amendment to the Constitution to change the Senate, to make it a representative body. But here's what I would do. And this can be done by simple legislation, not constitutional amendment. I would increase the number of members in the House. Right now, the average House representative represents about, I think it's somewhere between 670 and 750,000 people. Well, as the country was growing, the framers did not cap the number of members of the House of Representatives. The House itself did that. And they did it through legislation. They did not do it through constitutional amendment. The House could decide, because the framers put into the Constitution that the House will decide how the House operates.
Right.
So they can decide if they wanted to have 1,001 members, because remember, we have to have an odd number, right? They could do that. Because even when the House itself was capped, and I am not going to remember the year that was done, and this is why I fail very much at this program when George is not here, because he's so fast at looking stuff up. Whatever year it was that they did that, the average member of the House was still representing, I think they were only representing about 250,000 people, which is still a hell of a lot of people, right? You're not meeting them on a daily basis. But it's certainly a hell of a lot more direct representation than when it's 750,000 or 670 or whatever. I'm not remembering the right number at the moment. And I'm saying that, by the way, for whoever wants to throw feces at me, I'm telling you straight out that I'm not remembering the exact number. So, but the House could do that. We're amending the Constitution in this climate is, for all intent and purpose, impossible. But the things that can be fixed through simple legislation need to be done. The last time I was here with you, all of you, not just Mike, but all of you, I talked about how Democrats should wear their failures. When they had total control of government, the presidency, the Senate, and the House, they failed to codify Roe into law. They failed to increase taxes on rich people. back to an actual level that would mean something, not just points of a percent, but 50%, or go back to the 91%, or the 74% that under Nixon. They failed to expand the judiciary. And I don't just mean add justices to the Supreme Court, which they can do by simple legislation. The Constitution does not need to be changed to change the makeup of the Supreme Court. I told you I'll even use the word, my radical plan to redo the Supreme Court. I'd have 37 justices, and they pull ping pong balls out of a bowl to decide which 9 of them are going to sit on which individual case. So you never know what kind of justice you're going to get. You never know what kind of body of 9 that you're going to get. So when the Koch brothers find some hateful baker somewhere in the middle of Idaho who doesn't want to make a cake who hates gay people, and says, we should we'll finance the whole thing. We just need a face behind this case. No, not trying to be rhymey. That won't happen because they might get 9 progressives. They might get 9 conservatives. They might get a mix. They might get 6 progressives and 3 conservatives. You don't know which of the 37 you're going to get. They should double the number of federal districts. There's still only 9 federal districts. The 9th district still covers, gosh, I hope I don't get this wrong, Arizona, California, Nevada, Oregon, Washington, and Alaska. Well, and how many people lived in those states then? It should be 18 federal districts at a minimum, double them. We had the power to do all these things, and we didn't.
Well,
and they still need to be done. Sorry, Mike. You got me. Sorry, you got me.
I think you're forgetting about the human nature factor, and that people that have power, and you see this with gerrymandering, the people that have power want to pick their voters, and they don't want to give up any of that power. I don't think any of those things you could get to fly, even when you had Democrats completely in charge. I think you go back to the founding fathers and their ideas of the Constitution. I think they had much more faith in individuals in government than they really should have. And they didn't clarify a lot of things, not because they weren't smart, because they couldn't anticipate the future. I mean, you think of all those guys in powdered wigs and knee breeches. If you showed them the modern world, they'd be dumbfounded.
That's always been a Second Amendment argument too, hasn't it?
The country is so polarized that I see neighbors around here in Mississippi who are MAGA hat wearing crazy people, and they just delight in the fact that things that Trump says makes Democrats go crazy. They love him for that. They're not staring at his policies or any of those things. And they don't really care about his character. They just want they want that power. I can think of I can remember distinctly when I first heard of Donald Trump. I was a photographer in Los Angeles, and I kind of fell backwards into shooting fashion photography, a lot of which was lingerie catalogs for the industry. These companies would pay to make catalogs and hand them out at conventions to mom and pop kind of places, and they'd pick, whatever they felt was morally appropriate. But I saw stuff that I couldn't believe women would buy or wear. Mm-hmm. And one of these models was in her 30s. She seemed remotely very grown up, and her husband was somewhere in his 40s, and he was some sort of bi-coastal businessman or something. And Lynn was his trophy wife. And they came back from a New York trip, and she was livid. And her husband always came to the set and sat there and, through the entire shoot. And he was all bruised up. And I said, what happened to you? And he said, Donald Trump. And I said, who the hell is Donald Trump? This would probably be like 1989 or so. And I don't think Donald Trump was widely known outside of New York City. Well, he had a business meeting in Trump Tower. And his wife met him because she showed up for when he was going to get out. And they wandered around the mall at the top of that escalator, that famous escalator. And they came down the escalator and they saw Donald Trump at the bottom. They knew who he was. And they got really excited. And according to her story, Donald reached out and grabbed a handful of her, ample breasts.
Yeah, okay,
and said,
thank you. Yep.
You should come and work for me.
Yeah.
And,
no, I know that you're not trying to be overly graphic, but I understand what yeah.
Right.
And thank you for being
husband
sensitive toward the
immediately
verbiage.
himself at Trump, I mean, you think about any guy and some stranger or celebrity grabs a handful of your wife's breasts,
Yep.
you're going to go nuts. But he had bodyguards with him, and they roughed him up, carried him physically out of the lobby, and threw him on the sidewalk. And they tried to file a police complaint and all this kind of stuff, and they got nowhere. And so I was like, wow, that's an insane story. And I would hear it from other models that, did something in Atlantic City, and Trump was well known to be kind of a pervert, walk into girls' dressing rooms, try to, catch a peek. And if you tell this story to MAGA people, they look at me and they either don't believe me or don't care, or it's made up. And so you can't argue with no amount of facts will satisfy an idiot. And they've seen these facts. They saw him, he's a convicted felon now. That doesn't matter.
He has tapped into something that is very, very difficult, I think, for more logical people to explain. And the people that he has bamboozled, as I pull an old word out from the 1920s, at least the 1920s, if not the late 1800s, is he has somehow made them believe that their anger and suffering, specifically under Republican policies, by the way, post-Reagan and post-Reagan, this return to the Gilded Age, the dismantling and destruction of the New Deal, the end of fairness, they have suffered under that tremendously. But he has somehow convinced them that he's suffering along with them and that he's going to fix it. He did nothing to fix it. He's not going to do anything to fix it. The only meaningful piece of legislation, other than naming post offices and streets, resolutions and ceremonial, the only meaningful legislation that came out of the Trump administration was a nearly $9 trillion tax cut, with 83% of it going to the top 1% and the largest corporations in the country. There was a middle 5% that saw some actual real tax cut. The rest of us simply got a change of our withholding, so that we thought we were getting a tax cut, except when tax time came. And then we had to pay it all back. And everybody owed. And a lot of my MAGA friends, I'm pointing at my phone, a lot of MAGA friends on Facebook, Trump sycophants. And you know me on this program, I'm careful about calling people names, but it's reached to sycophancy at this point. It's not just following and supporting and agreeing. It's a cult. And I'll get into the definition difference of cult and movement and a bit later. But he somehow convinced these people that his anger is their anger, or that he's angry because they're angry. Remember what he said. And this is the thing about Trump that I find so amazing, is he can tell you exactly who he is. He can tell you exactly what he's thinking. He can tell you exactly what he's planning to do and not to do. And it doesn't seem to matter. Can you imagine if Barack Obama said, I can shoot somebody on Fifth Avenue and get away with it? My God, the Republican Party damn near imploded, and Fox News literally caught on fire because he wore a tan suit.
Yeah.
Dear God in heaven, think of what we're talking about here. The only piece of meaningful legislation he passed was his tax cut, but he has somehow convinced people that their anger is his anger and that he represents their anger. It's Reaganism and trickle-down economics in the Republican Party that foisted it on all of us with too damn much help from Democrats at that point, including Tip O'Neill, that did this to them. Democrats didn't do this to you. We didn't. I know the New Deal was a long time ago. I know. The New Deal and the policies of Franklin Roosevelt saved all of the Midwest, saved the entire Midwest from environmental disaster, saved the entire all domestic industries in this country. The Republican Great Depression was not just an American event. It was a worldwide event. But we're the ones that came out of it stronger and better and sooner than the rest of the planet. And not just because of the war. These states in the Midwest and the upper Midwest were solidly blue for decades until Reagan and the money behind him. Why are you poor? Why is Kentucky, with Mitch McConnell being a billionaire and having been in Congress for 50-something years, why is Kentucky the poorest state in the country? Mitch McConnell's become a billionaire, but Kentucky's the poorest state. Why is West Virginia laughing stock for most people in this country of hicks and toothless goobers who live up in the Appalachia and shoot groundhogs for food? Because you're all poor. What made you poor? $55 trillion in just income tax cuts to the top 1% since Reagan. 83% of all the new wealth generated since Reagan, when he took office, not after, but since he took office, January 20th in 1981, 83% of all the new wealth generated in the United States has gone to the top 1% since Reagan assumed office. 100% of it has gone to the top 1% since George W. Bush was in office. And now that's not enough. Now they're extracting wealth from you. Why are the southern states poor? Because you keep voting for the wrong people. You did this to yourselves to a great extent because you allowed yourselves to be tricked, or because your hatred of Black people, it is more than the fact, it overrides the fact that you can't keep a home, a car, and feed yourselves. And this might sound overly simplistic. It might sound angry. It might sound, boy, you really are angry at those people. You really hate those people, or you really think they're stupid. Here's the sad part. I don't think you're stupid. I don't. There's a difference between dumb and stupid. Dumb is putting your hand on the hot burner. It gets burnt, and you should learn. Oh, I shouldn't do that again. Stupid is doing it a second time. It's funny, I had a meeting on Saturday about this thing where the show's gonna, so I won't get too, but we're at a meeting on Saturday. One of the folks in the meeting is from the state of Kansas. One of the great political documentaries ever made is What Happened to Kansas. So we were talking about that for a bit, but also one of the first pieces of legislation when Sam Brownback left the Senate, the United States Senate, to run and became governor of Kansas. The very first piece of legislation that he initiated and that got passed through the Kansas legislature was a tax cut for 3 people. Just 3. The 3 richest people in Kansas. He basically eliminated taxes on those 3 people. because they gave him a ton of money to become governor. He also cut taxes across the board on the richest people in Kansas. It got so bad in Kansas that the schools went broke. The State Department of Education went broke. Local districts went broke. Their answer was, the Brownback administration's answer was, well, we'll just go to school 4 days a week. And we don't have to pay teachers for that 5th day. We don't have to have the buildings open. We'll just go to a 4-day school week. We won't educate kids. We'll just educate them less. We'll send everybody home. We'll all have 3-day weekends. Not to fund anything, but to simply destroy the public schools. And even Republicans in Kansas got angry. Even white, poor Republicans in Kansas got angry because their kids were being affected. So how did they rectify this situation? They elected another Republican governor and returned the same damn majority to the legislature. So at some point, we have to be honest and say, you did this to yourselves, and that this doesn't get any better until you wake up and listen. The folks that Mike is talking about and the folks that he lives amongst are not dumb people. They are not throwaway people, and they should never be forgotten. And we should advocate for them, even though they hate us, as much as they deserve, because they are our fellow citizens. They are fellow Americans. But the burden has to be on them at some point to say, to look in the mirror and say, I deserve better than this. I deserve better than this. That I can't feed myself. The money I bring in, I can't feed my kids. And that realization at some point has to override, wow, I hate my black neighbor. If you hate your black neighbor more than the fact that you can't feed your family, then maybe you should starve. That's a pretty radical thing to say. But I thought Republicans believed in personal responsibility. So take some personal responsibility. You may not love Democrats. You may not agree with everything that we try to do. I don't agree with everything that we sometimes advocate for. But dear God, 40 years of this has gotten you what? It's not government's job to run around and all hand you $1 million and make you millionaires. There is, Republicans like to talk about this. There is a dignity to work. But you should get something for it. That money shouldn't be extracted from you and sent to the rich. Republicans, especially in the Reagan era, used to love about, Democrats want wealth distribution. You did the damn wealth distribution. $55 trillion. And that's just the income tax cuts. That doesn't even include the bonuses that you were given to send the manufacturing out of the country. The capital gains tax cuts. That's probably $70 trillion. And it all went to the top. You did the wealth distribution. You did the social engineering. And you did it to benefit about 1,000 people. Over 330 million. But somewhere along the way, the folks that Mike is talking about, and I have dominated too much of his time, the folks that Mike is talking about have to wake up and take a little responsibility themselves. Democrats didn't do this to you. I can easily make an argument, and history will prove me correct, that perhaps we didn't do enough to fight it. In fact, flat out, we didn't do enough to fight it. But we didn't do it to you. Stop voting Republican just because there's an R after the name. Your party doesn't exist. Help yourselves. Help us help yourselves. Sorry, Mike. Go ahead.
That's okay. But what you've done is very succinctly run down a lot of facts that everybody should be familiar with. I'm familiar with most all the things you said. And it goes back to the old Mark Twain observation. No amount of facts will convince an idiot. And if you say any of these things about Trump, if you point out that he's basically Hitler in the early 1930s and he's out there just making his rambling, lying, crazy speeches. I mean,
he's not that smart, and he wishes he had a tenth of the personality and charisma of Mussolini. He wishes,
but he does have enough to be narrowly leading Biden. And he stands up there and says crazy stuff like, that's a Hannibal Lecter, a fictional character. What a great guy. And they just think, well, he's joking around. You'll point out something crazy he said, and he goes, well, he didn't mean it like that.
Let's remember, though,
ready to be. It's kind of the Matrix kind of thing. These people are not ready to be unplugged.
When you say that he leads, Biden, that is not correct. He leads him in national polls, but we don't have a national election. We have 50 state elections.
That's true.
And by the way, Joe Biden could descend on wings with Christ on his arm, and Christ could do a campaign tour with him through Mississippi. He'll still lose Mississippi.
Yes, of course. I've heard you talk about Pennsylvania over the years that I've been listening, and it seems like with the collapse of the steel industry, there was a giant before and after politically there in a place that I would think of as a massive liberal stronghold, and I don't get the impression that it's that way anymore.
No, I think quite honestly, I think you make an excellent point, and I think quite honestly that no, Pennsylvania is if there's a purple state in this country, it's Pennsylvania. We've had Republican governors and Democratic governors. Currently, the legislature is split. The Democrats have a razor hair thin majority in the state House. The Republicans still control the state Senate. Reagan himself came 5 minutes from where I live, maybe 10 minutes from where I live, stood at Bethlehem Steel and said, this mill is going to power this country and sustain you and your families for centuries. Or I should take that back. Let me correct myself. For another century. He then dismantled the tariffs and flooded the United States with cheap Chinese steel. And still people that worked there and lost everything because of him voted for him.
Yeah.
And there was a brief time where that benefit, if you will, benefited the South. The South was largely, Reagan made it easy to destroy unions. So the South destroyed all the unions. And these steel companies moved from the industrial Northeast briefly to the South. The steel capital of the country for a while was Birmingham, Alabama. And then that was an interim step until they left the country. And still, they all vote Republican. So what I think Mike might be saying, and he's going to correct me if I'm wrong, the facts don't matter to these folks. I understand that. Yeah, I do understand that. I do get that. But at some point, I think many of these people are irredeemable. Again, not because they're stupid. Not because they're stupid, because they have made a choice to ignore reality. Here on Earth 1, we know. They're on Earth 2. They have made that choice. They've made that conscious choice to go to Earth 2. And much like the Israelites wandering the desert, I think this generation is going to have to move on. I say very gracefully, I hope, before we know better. That's why the youth and youngest voters in this country give me hope, because they've never known a country without Reagan. And yet still they can look around and go, this isn't right. And that gives me hope. I wish the people that Mike lived by, with, interacts with on a daily basis, I wish they'd wake up. They're simply not going to. And he is right. I can throw all of these facts out at all of them. And oh, by the way, these are not opinions. They are facts. They are easily researched and found. They're facts. They're all there to be had. But no matter how many I throw out, they won't get it because they don't want to get it. I get it. I get it. I understand what the point that Mike is making. But at the end of the day, all we're left with is the facts. It's all we're left with. If Trump was standing right next to me and wearing a red tie, and I could say to some of these folks, that's a nice red tie. Because I'm a Democrat, they're not even going to say his tie's red. And he's standing right in front of me. So at some point, all we're left with is the facts. And those facts need to get out to the unaffiliated. They're not registered Democratic or Republican. They have to get out to the folks who don't vote because they think their vote doesn't matter. And nothing could be further from the truth. It has to get out to those people. And it has to get out to the precious few Republicans who are embarrassed. And there are some, not as many, I think, as people think, but there are some. There are some. The diehard dyed in the wool doesn't matter that Reagan bankrupted me. Doesn't matter that George W. Bush wasted $4 trillion and made Dick Cheney a billionaire. None of that matters to them. I get it. Mike's right. But sometimes at the end of the day, when no argument you can make will make a difference, you can only be left with your argument. And then you just have to take that argument to other places. You have to take it to the people that you think you can reach. You have to take it to the people that you think it will matter to. This chair is really starting to get to me. George is somewhere going, buy the gaming chair. We don't have the money for the gaming chair, but this one is starting to bother me. Anyway, Mike, take it over.
Well, during the Obama years, I worked at a Lowe's here in Meridian, and I, would say I'd get people come up and they would say, "Oh, the N-word cashier over there told me you were the person I should talk to about tool purchase or hardware." And I go, "Oh, excuse me, what now?" "The N-word girl over there told me you're the person I should talk to." I said, "Did you mean the cashier right over there?" And I pointed at the cashier because you can see him at the lumber checkout area. They go, "Yeah, that little N-word girl." I said, "That's my niece. Wasn't true." I said, "So do you want to take back that and start that over again and try again?" And most of the time, they just turn around and walk off. I had an Obama-Biden sticker on my truck since 2008. The taillights of my truck have been smashed out a bunch of times. Luckily, the old F-150 is only about $20 to replace. But I probably spent like $200 replacing my taillight. I've had my tires slashed in the parking lot when people would see it. And people would tell me, "Why don't you take that off? It's just costing you money." I had a neighbor down the road who called me a bunch of homophobic stuff because I'm not married, I live alone. And told me if I put up a Obama sign or a Hillary sign in my yard, something bad had happened to my property. And they came up and tried to put Trump signs and George Bush signs on the part of my property that faces the local road. And I would go up at 3 a.m. and pick them up and bring them back to the shop and shred them. I put them in the burn barrel and burn them. And, the next day, they'd put them right back up, and I'd put up a sign that said private property, post no bill. That sign would disappear. I bought a bulk of those, private property, post no signs, And I went through a lot of lumber, just tacking it to them and stick it in the ground. Um, that one neighbor, he went on a tear the beginning the pandemic began and said nobody could make him wear a mask and it was evil, and all everything you could think of, you heard.
And then they died from the pandemic and just
anti-mask stuff. He went on, and I didn't eliminate him as Facebook friend, even though he hadn't been a friend to me since a couple of days after he sent me a friend request. And then one day it was, I think I made a mistake. And my brother told me, did you hear that JD died? He got COVID and he died on a respirator in 3 days. And I just thought, wow. And I, because I have a woodworking shop, I discovered that, I looked for my paper masks I'd use to run routers and things like that. And I couldn't find, where did I just mislay those? I'd buy another 25 or 50 pack of them at Lowe's where I work. And I wound up with over 100 of those N95 masks, and I tried to give them away to people I was concerned about. Nobody would take them. Nobody. So, it's that facts don't matter to these people anymore. And that's what happened in Nazi Germany. Hitler got up there and told all of these crazy things. And I think they want to elect him to have that same kind of revenge that those German people wanted to have. I think they want a crystal knife. If you've seen that, anybody that's seen that movie Civil War, which is kind of a strange premise, that California and Texas would unite militarily to overthrow the Trump-like president in it, is not believable. But that kind of chaos, I 100% believe, could kick off whether Trump wins or loses the election either way. Mm-hmm. I have very little hope that even if Biden's reelected, that they won't go crazy, because this is kind of their last chance. And I've seen the depth of hatred and ignorance. It just astonishes.
It
and
truly,
sometimes living here.
It truly is. I've said it on the program a bunch of times, too many probably. This election is not necessarily about Trump or Biden. It's not. It's about right and wrong. It's about, will November 5th be simply the end of another election cycle going into the next? Will it be one in a series of elections, or will it be the last one? It is quite literally what we're looking at.
Yeah.
It's not an over-exaggeration. It's not hyperbole. Will this be simply the next election or the last? Billionaires, when Trump goes into a closed room and tells the oil barons, just give me $1 billion, you can do whatever you want. That's the essence. That is the very definition of fascism. It is the very definition of it. The merger of corporate and state interests, where corporations run the government through hand-picked, sponsored, bought-off, chosen, quote-unquote, elected officials. It is the very definition. It is Mussolini's definition. It is his very own definition of fascism. That is fascism. Totalitarian government, owned, operated, controlled by corporations for their financial benefit. Is this election going to be simply one in a series or the last one? That is the existential question of this election. Is it Daisy's chiming in now, the dog? Not sure if you all can hear that, but something has her going. Probably the sound of my voice, and not in a good way. That's the real question here. And it's not hyperbolic. It's not an over-exaggeration. It's not radical. It's not clickbait. If I was interested in clickbait, I'd be saying some really ridiculous crap here. I refuse to do that. I could easily do it. I could be a hell of a lot more popular and rich. I think Ben Shapiro became rich and popular by saying smart and intelligent things. Not so much. That I'd say the thing about Joe Rogan, but that's a whole different topic. But that's what this is. That's what this is now. Is November 5th simply going to be the next election or the last election? Which? And the folks that Mike is talking about, who I think desperately, deep in their hearts, I think they love this country. I think they love their families. I think they want to take care of their families. They're cult followers at this point. They just are. And not because they're stupid. I refuse to believe that. I don't think it's because they're stupid. The people who followed Jim Jones were not dumb. They fell into it. They believed what they were being sold, and they died for it. The people that followed Reverend Moon, Sun Myung Moon. Anybody remember the Moonies? I'm really dating myself now, Mike, but they're not bad people. They weren't bad people. They bought what they were being sold. They believed in it. The Manson family believed. They just believed. This is the same thing. It truly is. When tens of thousands of people are willing to storm their own national capital on the behest and behalf of one man, that's a cult. And that's what Mike is talking about. And I don't think I'm breaking any ground here. I don't think I'm, breaking any news. That's a cult. That's a cult. And what do we do on November 5th? Do we try to end the cult? Because eventually, Republicans being out of power is going to cost billionaires money. And eventually, they'll come around to a place where maybe we need some more moderate people so that we can keep control. Now, they're always going to have a sizable amount of control. They've basically rewritten the governmental rules a half the state, 2/3 of the states, nearly 2/3 of the states in the country. They're always going to have a modicum of control. But a national government is harder to control. It's harder to buy the presidency than it is to buy the Senate, which is harder to buy than to buy the House. It's actually relatively cheap to buy state legislators. Give a MAGA guy $250,000, he's probably going to win a state house seat, especially in the very rural areas, the Idahos, Montanas, Wyomings. So that's what this comes down to. Is November 5th the next election, or is it the last? And that's why it makes it hard. And I don't know if this is actually part of Mike's point, but maybe I'm getting his point better than I did when we started the conversation. That's why those facts don't matter. Because when policy's not part of the debate, how do you reach people? Your guy's a criminal. No, he's not. Well, he was just convicted. No, he's not. It was fake. Policy doesn't matter at that point. But ultimately, we have to find the people that it does matter to. Is there enough Americans? Are there enough? Is there enough? Are there enough Americans? Are there? Grammar, fixing grammar along the way. Are there enough Americans who can say, I may not love Joe Biden, but I'd like to be able to vote again in my lifetime. I would like this vote to not be my last. Deep in my heart, I actually think there are plenty of those people. I really do. I think there's plenty of those people. And the high-profile Republicans that have come out, and that number is just ever so slightly inching up. The Liz Cheneys, the Adam Kinzingers, the Charlie Dents, Christy Whitman, who've come out and said, I don't agree with Joe Biden on nearly any policy, but I'll vote for him because at the very base of it all, he at least believes that the American democracy should exist. I hope there's enough of those people. And I happen to believe that there is. What's going to keep this election close is the Electoral College. I think Joe Biden's going to win this election by 6, 8, 10 million people. Votes. People. One person, one vote. But the Electoral College will be close. I do happen to believe, sadly, I happen to agree with too many of the pundits that it'll come down to about 100,000 votes in 5 states. And I happen to be living in one of them. But let's see. I do think there's enough of those people in enough of the other states, in enough of these battleground states. I think Michigan is now completely run by Democrats, the governor and the legislature. I believe we'll be okay in Michigan. Pennsylvania now has a Democratic governor, 2 Democratic senators. I think we'll be okay here. I think it'll be tight, but I think we'll be okay. So what else you got, Mike, before I let you go? I've stolen a lot of your time. I should say I've given you a lot of time because I won't shut up. But what else you got before I turn the line over to somebody else? What else you have, sir?
Well, I truly admire your optimism, but Trump can still lose and set America on fire.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
And he could imagine if twice as many people storm the Capitol next January 6th. Imagine if 10 times the amount of people storm the Capitol. What if my neighbors come up my driveway looking to kill me and other people that they know are godless Democrats? I got some ammo, and I used to be an junior NRA marksman when I was a teenager. But can I hold them off? What will the local law enforcement do when I have my yard littered with dead neighbors and MAGA hats? I don't know. I think that they will kill me. I think that Civil War scenario that's in that most recent movie could come true. You have there's a great scene where Jesse Plemons is the soldier accountable to nobody, and who asks the reporters, what kind, they say, we're Americans. And he goes, yeah, but what kind of Americans are you? And the one guy says, well, I'm Cuban American. He's in death, where are you from? One of the girls says Colorado, and he goes, okay, that's what I'm talking about. Well, he's got everybody, under him and another soldier holding guns on him. Where are you from? I'm from Hong Kong. So that guy. I think that you could see a nationwide insurrection. And I don't think it's alarmist or pessimistic to not consider that. But I hope you're right. I hope we can defeat him. I hope Judge Marchand puts him in jail past the time of the election. I think that would cool a lot of this when he's not able to get his rhetoric out. The other thing is, what if Joe Biden and Donald Trump have heat strokes and die this summer out on the campaign trail? I asked this for people when they were supporting George Bush. I said, well, if something happens to George Bush, who's next? Right? And they'd say, well, Dick Cheney. I go, yeah, but he's really old and feeble and doesn't even have a human heart anymore. Who's the best? And they couldn't come up with anybody. And I asked my Democrat friends, if Biden has a stroke, do you think Kamala Harris could get elected? And I see it in their faces. They go, oh, sure. But, a black woman getting elected in the Trump environment? Are you kidding me? Bernie Sanders, the Jew, would have a lot more votes than Kamala Harris would ever get. And he can't be president.
I have said on this program, and it's not by accident, and it doesn't necessarily reflect well upon this country, but it is not by accident that we elected a black male before we elected any type of woman to the highest office in the president. And when in the country, and when I say any type, I mean white, black, Asian, native, East Indian, like that area, the Pakistan, India area, like that area. It's not by mistake, and it does not reflect well in the country. That really, when we finally elected someone other than a white male, it was still a male, even though facts and data show you that countries run by women all around the planet are happier, healthier, more equal. Life expectancies go up, education outcomes are better. All you need to do is look at the Scandinavian countries; they're run by women now. Uh, all you needed to see was the pandemic response in New Zealand by the former prime minister, now Jacinda Ardern. Countries run by women are better run, except for what Thatcher did to destroy. Yep, Mark just said in the chat, New Zealand was one. I got you, buddy. Yep, I see you. You're right. But yeah,
But,
I mean,
I think when you go back to Obama versus McCain, and he picked that crazy Alaska woman. God, what was her name again?
Sarah Palin.
I think he scared the shit out of people thinking about John McCain's age, and he could be the president. And I think that scared a lot of people to off the fence to vote for Obama. It's a miracle to me that he got reelected. I really was surprised by it. The Obama hate that I continue to see here is just flooring. So I don't know. If McCain had picked, say, Liz Cheney to be his vice president, I think he would have gotten elected. And it might have been a return to a kind of an Eisenhower Republican president.
Well, I think,
but I don't know where that bench of reasonable Republicans are, because Trump's effectively neutered everybody. Could you imagine voting for the Trump people voting for Little Mario or Lion Ted Cruz or any of those people that he gave a nickname to?
Yeah,
He's destroyed he's destroyed the traditional Republican base. And people are very mad at Biden right now. The gas is too high, the groceries are too high, nothing inside of his control. But people vote emotionally like it, and like how Reagan got swept in. Jimmy Carter looked ineffective and weak, and Reagan played the part of president. And people think, oh, he was a good Christian man with very little evidence otherwise. I mean,
and who certainly didn't govern that way, that's for sure.
He was the big astrologer and stuff. So a lot of this just comes out to like who's taller, who's younger, who's a better orator. I think Obama nailed it now. But when, I remember a press conference where somebody trapped Obama into explaining, the gross national product. And the man knew his facts backwards and forwards. But my eyes were glazing over because he came that halting Obama, going, well, let me explain the GDP. And
this is I hear this a lot. Democrats stink at messaging. They're terrible at messaging. Why can't the party get to more people to tell them what President Biden has actually accomplished? And by the way, the facts are the facts. This has been the most progressive administration at a minimum since Johnson's Great Society, and I could make an argument since the New Deal itself.
Yeah, I agree.
So
with
that
you 100%.
said, you're making a very good point. I can throw all these facts out, and I do it every week. You're not reaching people at an emotional level the way Republicans are. Well, first off, that's a double-edged sword. Let's think about some of the emotions by which Republicans are reaching these people. Hate, anger, fear, racism, jealousy. I'm jealous of rich people. And yet somehow we've convinced them that they're temporarily inconvenienced billionaires, which they are not. We are now the least economically mobile OECD country. And by a good distance. If you're born poor, you're going to die poor. You have a better chance if you're born middle class of dying poor than you are of moving up. So
Yeah.
let's get to all that. So how do we make that emotional connection? I think, and that's just what I think, because I have not always been successful doing it. Sometimes yes, sometimes not. And I throw out the fact about $55 trillion being taken from you. So, okay, that's a fact. That's just a very cardboard fact, let's just say. Very plain, very monotone, very be okay. So what? All right, well, so what? Why don't you deserve better? Why don't you, Red Hat, deserve better? Why do you deserve to have your money taken and given to rich people? How is that fair? You're all screaming about unfairness. Why is that fair? When did you decide that you don't matter? When did you decide to let the political party, the former political party that you still support, that it was okay for them to take everything from you and give it to a very, very, very small handful of wealthy people? Why do you not deserve to see a doctor? Why do you not deserve to send your kid to a school where there are no lead pipes, where there's good speed internet, computers in the classroom, a fully funded art and music program, fully funded sports programs? The building's not going to collapse around you. It wasn't built in the 40s, doesn't have asbestos in it. Why do you deserve? I'll take, for example, here in Northampton County, that I drop a letter in my closest mailbox and it can take up to 3 weeks for it to go 10 miles. Why do you deserve that? Why do you not deserve better than that? When did you decide that you don't matter anymore? And I'm not saying that that is the absolute way to reach everybody. In a country of 330 million people, you're not going to reach everybody with every individual messaging tactic. You're not. But dear God, at some point, this group that Mike is living with, and God, for the life of me, I can't imagine how you do it every day. I sure as hell couldn't. But where you choose to live is an American choice. It's a freedom choice. It's the personal privacy choice that Samuel Alito says you don't have anymore, by the way. You have made that choice, but it would seem to me that that's the only way that you can reach some of these folks, is to ask them questions. And these are questions that they don't have answers to. That doesn't mean that these folks are not going to shout back at you. Doesn't mean that they're not going to get angry, puff out the chest, and come up on you. But at the end of the day, they don't have answers. They don't. They do not have answers. We must ask them questions to make them think. To
Can
make
I
them
give
think.
you an answer I hear the most commonly? Is that, the Democrats are all pedophiles and groomers, and they hold satanic rituals to kill children. And
Well, that's part of the Israel.
They don't believe in Jesus Christ. And
Well,
Jesus Christ
this is part of the Israelites that are going to have to wander the desert. That's simply part of the Israelites that are going to have to wander the desert. Those people are beyond hope. Sorry.
Yeah.
They're beyond hope. But there are still some, because I see they're here. They're here in the Lehigh Valley. They wouldn't vote for Jesus if he ran as a Democrat. They wouldn't. But I have done this before, and again, it doesn't mean that it's universally correct. It doesn't mean that I'm correct, and I'm not smarter than anybody. I'm not. Trust me, I'm really not. But when I ask people questions that they can't answer, it is human biological nature to think. It's human biological nature to force yourself to think. It is. Those are very hard, disturbing, sour, uncomfortable questions. They linger. They stay with you. It's human nature. It might take weeks before somebody really sits down and looks in the mirror. And it doesn't mean that any of these people ever agree with me. And all I ever wanted to do with this program was to get people to talk to each other again and to get people to think. And if you do the hours and hours of thinking and all of the research, and you really take yourself down different internet rabbit holes, and you still are convinced that I'm full of it, okay, because at least you did the work. At least you did the research. At least you took the time to think. We're not thinking. There's a whole 30 to 40% of the country that's literally not thinking. They're not putting any thought into what they're doing. They're just not. But guess what? Because I'm going to say goodbye to you, Mike, and open up the line for other folks. Guess what? They're still our neighbors. They're still our fellow country people. And I don't mean country rural. I mean national. There are national neighbors. They're still part of this society. I won't stop trying to reach them. I won't. Some are unreachable, but like an idiot, I'll keep trying. Because maybe someday something will snap. I don't know. Maybe it will. But I am pretty optimistic. I'm certainly I'm certainly more on the optimistic side than the pessimistic side, and that's kind of remarkable for me. I think there's enough people who want democracy to live. They may not like this president. They may not like his age. May not like what he stands for. But I do think at the end of the day, enough people will decide that they like voting. So I hope that that's how it goes. Mike, I need to say goodbye. Open up the line. I haven't reset the show in too long. I'm very, very humbled and grateful that you would call us. I hope you continue to call when we're here live. I hope you continue. If you can't be with us live, I hope you continue to watch the recordings and just stick with us. I hope you stay part of the program. I'm very grateful that you gave us a ring.
Right. Well, I just wanted to close by saying I admire your optimism. I hope you're right and I'm wrong. I just wanted you to have that input from, deep down in the
the belly of the beast. Well, keep calling and keep sharing the perspective. I think it's something that we need to learn. We do. I think it's a very important point of view that the rest of the country, the world, everybody that's listening, anybody that can connect to the internet can listen to this program from anywhere on the planet. And it's a perspective that folks need to learn about. It's hard to connect with people if you don't understand them. We need to understand them better. So I hope you'll keep doing that for us.
My pleasure.
Have a
great night.
You as well. Stay safe. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Boy, I might have hung up a little too quick. 484-633. Where are you calling from? First name.
Hello, it's Mark. How you doing?
Mark, my friend, how are you?
Okay. I thought I was thinking to myself when I called. I said maybe I should give this to somebody else, but
No.
you did open the line, so
Heck yeah. Why not? What do you got? What's on your mind?
well, I put that on there. I wrote about that eavesdropping and I think you did mention this earlier when I first got on there. I believe say with the Patriot Act and stuff and even going
which was just renewed not long ago, by the way.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
In the old days, and of course, you still have your 9/11 skeptics or whatever truthers, even if somebody doesn't buy the official argument, but
yeah, Robert Kennedy Jr. is one of them.
Well, back when that's when I really started getting heated up with like I said, with Roy Apfelbach is when I started becoming a discreet activist, political activist, when I had a portion of 22 here fixed back in 1990. I have the letter from him. I keep all my documentation here. So, and then, I wrote this letter to Al Gore, which I still have, and I said, I really didn't trust. I didn't trust Bush Cheney with and one of the reasons was because all around me these signs were going up, and for the future, Bush. I gotta get out of here. There's a bird attacking me.
Yeah.
Bush, Bush Cheney blueprint for the hold on a second. I gotta go into hell of holler. Just kidding. I gotta go into my little place here. But yeah, blueprint for the future. I didn't when that 5-court Supreme Court decision with Bush and the hanging chads and all that, and plus his brother was down there influencing things, Jeb, and I knew there was something wrong. And that's when I really started getting, and you can look up my YouTube videos. They're not perfect. I was kind of tired. I went through them. It was on my birthday anyway. But getting back to what I was originally saying, Jeff, that the government now, and I called the Secret Service. I called the Secret Service Philadelphia field office about 2 years ago. I have the man's voice, the man's voice on my old answering machine. Not that his name was Special Agent Williams. He was a very polite gentleman, and I said, "Listen, I heard this on Fox News. I understand it." I said, "Is there a machine that can X-ray through our mail?" And Special Agent Williams did indeed say yes over the phone. In other words, you put the package. If there's questionable mail, if you notice the mailboxes today, you can't open them as much as they. I don't think it's for like any kind of like kinetic material. I believe it's for influencing, like I did when I mailed out simple observations, which nobody knows about. But that's the recruiting tool I used to recruit Barack Obama, and it was because of institutional discrimination, which denies access to of health care to individuals, which is why I'm still working with Elizabeth Ferry of Pennsylvania Historical Museum Commission to have my estate placed on the National Register landmarks through the National Park Service. So getting back to eavesdropping, but like even right now, this telephone with Edward Snowden, he wouldn't bring a telephone like what I'm talking through into when it was in China with those two reporters, because he get lost because it's an eavesdropping tool. Everybody has one in their hands now, as far as I know. Can you confirm that?
This is stuff I'm very uncomfortable with. I'm not a conspiracy guy. This isn't conspiracy radio. But here's what I will tell you. Here's what I will tell you.
Mm-hmm.
When Kristen and I have a conversation,
right,
in the privacy of our own home,
correct,
about shopping for whatever, fill in the blank, cars, furniture, whatever it could be, whatever it might be.
Right.
When I open up, the very next time that I open up my Facebook,
correct,
or to a lesser extent, the email, here's a whole flood of ads for cars and furniture, right? If I was to talk about, so do I think?
Yeah.
So I can't say that I necessarily agree with everything that you're postulating, but I can understand why you would feel that way. So if I decide to talk about, if I wanted to talk about purple and pink alligators, I'll probably find something in my Facebook pretty soon about purple and pink alligators, right? Or if I like one advertisement for, like, I just actually a couple of weeks ago, I think it was Memorial Day weekend, actually, I did a lot of landscape lighting out in front of the house. Even though we're in a condo development, our HOA is very, very really good, and I mean really good, about allowing folks to do things within the fronts of their own home. It doesn't have to be uniform, right? You could plant different flowers. Some folks have like those metal like sculptures that kind of blow in the wind. They're not pinwheels necessarily, but they have these really neat 3D effects. Others folks have flags. all
Right.
different types of flowers. Some folks even have vegetables growing, and the
Mhm.
HOA is cool with all of it, right? So as
Yep.
long as you stick to your bit of frontage. So I did landscape lighting all over the front. And
HOA.
many of the lights that I found were ads on Facebook. So I knew I wasn't ready to buy them. They started popping up, in the spring, as they should, by the way, because you're getting ready for summer.
Right.
And I might like one, or I might save it in a place that I could go back to later. I might send it to Kristen. What do you think about this? And well, when you like one of them,
Mhm.
bloody Nora, you get
Oh yeah.
you
I
get
understand.
1,000 of them. So
Mhm.
I may not necessarily agree with all of it, but I
No,
understand
no, no, no.
why you might feel that way. And here's what's happening in a political sense.
Right.
Let me bring this back to politics because this is a current event political program.
Yep.
It's that type of technology and the depth of technology that
Mhm.
allows people like the jurors in the Trump trial in New York to get doxxed. Because if you search hard enough, you can find anything. And everything, everything that I post on see, I think people seem to forget
Right.
the real genuine depth of brilliance behind Facebook. It is
Mhm.
the marketing, it is the perfect marketing tool.
Yep.
You voluntarily hand over your information to them to be
Right.
divided, analyzed, subdivided, spreadsheeted for
Hmm.
every
Mhm.
business on the planet. You tell them what you like, you tell them what you don't
Yep.
like, you tell them where you live, you tell them how
Yep.
old you are, you tell them your income, you tell them where you work, you tell them how big your
Mhm.
family is, what schools they go to, what car you drive, what coffee you drink. You tell them everything because you think you're sharing it. Well, you are sharing it, and you're part of
Right.
a greater
Right.
community. And into every extent, you are part of that community. You are. When one of
Mhm.
my friends from high school says, "Wow, just dropped 10 pounds. I feel like I did when I like, good for you, great." And now you're putting that weight loss information out into the ether that they can then
Right.
gather and then sell to weight loss companies. Or
Mhm.
even if they can't sell the weight loss product to you, the person that posted, "Wow, look at me, I just lost 10 pounds," because you already lost 10 pounds. I have all of your demographic information in there. I know that this
Yep.
54-year-old white woman who makes this much and lives here and has this many
Right.
kids and drives this car just lost 10
Yep.
pounds by using this product. It's the
Yep.
most brilliant marketing informational tool in history. In history. Ever,
Yep.
ever,
Wow.
ever. And to a great extent, that's what all the other social media platforms are based on.
Yep.
Twitter is information gathering. It's not a news source. It's
Mhm.
information gathering. Every Google search that you do is information gathering, so it can be
Right.
sold.
Right.
From a political point of view, same thing. If I do a search for the Inflation Reduction Act,
Mhm.
I might start to get ads for this road construction company is seeking employees.
Yep.
Or here's Build Back Better merchandise. Or
Yep.
I might automatically start to see more posts from my congresswoman.
Mhm.
So from that standpoint, I understand what you're getting at. I wish
So,
it worked both ways.
yep.
I wish it worked both ways. That when the
Yep.
folks that we talked with Mike about, his
Right.
neighbors and I hope some of them are friends, and the people that
Mhm.
he sees at his place of business, I wish it worked the other way. That when
Mhm.
that when someone walks into his place of business and says, "Well, your prices are inflated because of Biden," The phone
Right.
phone microphone's picking that up, right?
Right.
I would love to see that person then go home, even if it's hours and hours and hours later, open up their Facebook and say, "Ooh, fact check. Actually, it's not the Biden administration. Your gas is higher because the gas that we drill here in the United States is being shipped overseas, and then we import it from another place rather than freaking just keep it here."
Right.
Or the fact that the oil industry in this country gets 500, well, Bernie Sanders will tell you it's more like 800 billion, but at least on the books, $500 billion in subsidies every single year, 40 billion right here in Pennsylvania. Gas should be $1 a gallon. I wish some of that stuff would come up to enhance, to drive, to promote the national discussion. Like last week, or not last week, the last time I was here, my dear friend Bob Smith, he's the most diehard Republican you're ever going to meet. Him and I don't agree on a damn thing.
Okay.
But I also know that if I was in real trouble and I needed a place to stay, the man would open his home to me without even a hesitation. So we're friends.
There you go.
And we're friends for the right reasons. Okay. That said, he corrected me live on the air the last time I was here. And damn well he should have.
Yep.
But how did he do it? Did he just say, "You're full of it, you pinko commie Democrat, you hate it, you hate America"? No, he searched, got the number, and sent me the number and where he found it. And I was wrong. And I was wrong. He was right. That I wish that sort of proliferation of this tech into our lives did the opposite that it always does. Right. If I like an article from MSNBC, then I don't need to see 800,000 more posts from every single Democratic official and Mother Jones magazine, and maybe I need to see some of the opposite stuff. Maybe I need to see that. One of the most interesting things that happened to me recently on Facebook is I shared a meme onto that other side of information. It popped up in my personal feed. I shared it to the group that said, "You're broke because," it essentially said, "You're broke because billionaires don't pay enough in taxes." It got flagged and removed by Facebook as an incorrect fact. First off, it's not an incorrect fact. It's the truth. Second, it's also partly based on perception, because the meme goes on to say things would be better if they did. That's an opinion. I happen to think it's a fact, because history shows us that the more money the rich pay and the more that corporations have to pay, and where they could avoid paying taxes by being forced to pay their workers more money and reinvest into their company, the country was better off. It's called the New Deal. We lived through it.
Okay.
History shows us the truth. So here's this mega monster corporation telling me that someone else's opinion is a bad fact. That's frightening. Now, I walk outside in the middle of the day and I tell you that my opinion is the sky is green. Well, your opinion is full of shit, because it's clearly not, unless you're colorblind. It's clearly not. And the science tells you that it can't be, because the way the sunlight comes into the atmosphere reflects off the nitrogen, which is the most of our atmosphere, by the way. You get the blue. You also get blue from the reflection from water. Or no, it's the other way around. I'm sorry. The blue in the water is reflecting the blue in the sky. I got it backward. So that's not really an opinion. It's a fact. My opinion is the grass is too high and needs to be cut is an opinion.
Gotcha.
You know what I'm saying? So
then
that's where I think That's where I think we are. So I'll give you a few more seconds before I get back to the phone. Sorry, wait, let me say that again. Open the phone back up. Sorry, I said that wrong. Go for it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I believe you said his name was Mike, the person before, talking. Well, when he was saying about how much ammo he has and all that stuff, I mean, all he has to do is, well, use the device we have in our hand to call 911. You know, if you have, hopefully, you know.
Yeah.
But you know what? That's what you do.
Yeah.
That's
yeah.
what you do.
Yeah. Exactly. You're right. You're 100% right. Nobody wants. I don't think Mike is looking for violence on his front lawn either. But I absolutely understand. I understand where he's coming from, and
right.
And I think that understanding is maybe where we rebuild
Mm-hmm.
the bridge to the neighbors and townsfolks and patrons to his business that he's talking about.
There you go.
I understand that you're angry. I understand if you're 70 years old and for the first 50 years of your life, you saw nothing but white faces, and now you see a lot of Hispanic faces, that you think your country's changing. Well, guess what?
No.
It is changing.
The world,
but it also, there's 50 million plus, and if somebody's going to Google this for me, the number of dead indigenous people as a result of our actions. The country looked different. They were probably angry. Well, they were angry too. The country began to look different to them too. So I can understand the anger, but here's where the facts must break through. And we must never, never, never give up on the facts. Is that the reason that you're angry is wrong. And that's not opinion, by the way. There's a gentleman that I'm friends with on Facebook. We've never met in person. He is as right as I am left. And he's been on a meme attack lately, boy. You should be angry that a gallon of milk is now this under Biden when it was this under the real popular meme seems to be, boy, 4 years ago, gas was $1.50 a gallon. The economy was shut down, you fools. We were all indoors trying to stay alive from a virus that we knew nothing about. No shit, it was cheaper. We weren't going anywhere. We weren't driving. Nobody was going to work.
You have me pacing the floor, Jeff.
They were drilling the same amount of oil and not selling any of it. No kidding, it was $1.50. But when Saudi Arabia and Russia decide to cut production to artificially inflate prices, then you're mad at the wrong person because you don't know the facts.
Yeah.
Or you refuse to listen to them. And here's the divide. That's not my fault. Then it's your fault because you refuse to listen and learn. I can't help you with that. Well, that's not true. Right. I can help you with that, but I can't make you listen.
There you go.
If you're so pissed off that you're broke, maybe you should be mad at $55 trillion in income tax cuts going to the richest 1%. You're mad at the wrong people. If you're a Democrat and a woman, if you're a Republican and a woman, and you're mad that the Democratic Congress and president didn't codify Roe into law, you have every right in the world to be mad. But guess who's going to codify it into law? Not Republicans. So somewhere your anger and the truth have to come back together and meet. They have to. Or we go nowhere. Or we do divide into multiple countries. And I got to tell you, that break, if and or when this country breaks apart again, it won't be a clean break. It won't be broken by state lines. Pennsylvania would shatter into a million pieces. It would go house by house. I'm going with the Confederacy. I'm staying with the North or the blue states, however you want to put it. That battle will be house by house, neighborhood by neighborhood, town by town. Texas threatens to secede from the country about every 5 minutes. Personally, go. Sorry, won't miss you. Go. Florida is not a functioning democracy anymore. Go. See you later. So some of these breaks are very evident. They're very clear. Oregon would probably split in two. The eastern half of Oregon wants to become part of Idaho. Idaho's happy to have them. But Massachusetts isn't going to split in half. Right? Connecticut probably isn't splitting in half. New Jersey's not splitting in half. New York might. Because, boy, when you go north, it is as red as it gets. But Pennsylvania will shatter into a million pieces. We know where Mississippi and Alabama, and Louisiana, and hell, Missouri at this point, South Carolina, we know where they're going. They're going with Texas. But some of these other states are going to shatter like glass into 1,000 pieces. It's not going to be the simple state boundaries that we saw in the Civil War. It's going to be some of these places are going to shatter in a million pieces. That's if it comes to that. But as I said to Mike, somewhere, I don't know where, I am generally a very pessimistic person, and I'm usually way more depressed than I am happy. But I just somewhere in my heart feel that there's enough people in this country who like democracy, small d democracy. They're not capital D Democrats or member of the Democratic Party. By the way, it's not the Democrat Party; it's a Democratic Party, and it's been so since Jefferson founded it. That said, I think there's enough people who like to vote. I think there's enough people who, even if they don't vote, want that right to vote and believe in it and hold it dear. So that's my hope. Mark, I need to run. I know Randall's going to call. Okay. Thank you for being part of the program. It means a lot to me. I really appreciate it.
Okay. Can I just throw one thing in?
Sure.
It's called the grassroots campaign of Barack Obama. The Elizabeth McKenna, Harvard, the groundbreaking, the grassroots. That was the biggest grassroots campaign, unlike any other, and it started right here in Whitehall, Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
You can look it up. It's right there. Take care. See you. Thank you very much.
Mark, call us again when we're on again live. You're always welcome here.
Yes, sir. Take care.
Have a good night.
You too, sir.
Holy crap. 2 calls. George isn't going to know what to do with himself. And George is here, by the way. It's always a better program when George is here. Randall, thanks for being patient. You got 15 minutes. Randall?
Yeah.
There we go. Go on,
Hey.
kiddo. It's 8:04. It's about 8:40. 15 minutes, all yours.
Number one, I am so glad some other people called in.
I know.
It's refreshing, right?
I'm sorry?
It's refreshing, isn't it?
It's very, very refreshing, and I am so glad it's happening.
I hope it happens every damn time I'm on the air. I hope so. It's a better program when people call in. We have a conversation with each other.
I pray to my Lord that it does happen every time. Anyway, yeah, I know we're talking over each other. Anyway, what I posted this week on your side information on the Pennsylvania House, I'm still just extremely upset of the Republicans that walked out on 2 heroes from from January 6th that defended our democracy, number one. And I'm so mad that two of them, well, one of them did a prissy ass thing. You know, he says, "Oh, you understand what I meant." No, we
Yeah.
know what you meant by walking out. I didn't know. No, we know what you meant by walking out.
Is
We,
is
we
that the
don't
most
care.
ridiculous thing you ever heard in your life? Oh my God, I had to go to the bathroom. I didn't mean to walk out. Oh, okay. So when you walked out the exact same time that your quote unquote cohorts went out with you, just pure happenstance. Oh, for God's sake, how stupid do these people think we all are? My God,
Wait,
how stupid do they think they are? This should, I put in the header for the program. I was going to talk about this. I'm glad that Randall brought it up. We're not going to have time left in the program to give this topic justice. But by the way, for any police officers that might be listening, and I hope you are, live or the recording, when do you find same kind of topic that we were talking about with Mike on the phone? When do you realize that Republicans simply do not give a shit about you? They don't care. Your tools, your props to them. They don't want your union to exist. They don't want you to get paid. They don't want you to have the equipment that you need unless they can get free military equipment from the DOD when it's retired. They don't care about you. Your tools and props to them. This same Republican Party with two hero, we throw that word around too much, but these two hero officers that saved democracy. And by the way, that's not hyperbole. When they saved the Capitol from being overrun, when they saved Speaker Pelosi, she was Speaker at the time, when they saved Vice President Pence from being murdered, they saved democracy. So what did the Republicans in the Pennsylvania legislature do? Boo them, jeer them, call them names, call them sellouts, and get up and walk out on them? And this is not a handful of people. This has become the theme of the former political party known as Republicans. These men, and it was two men that happened to be there at the time. That's why I say that. These men, because there were female cops who fought right next to them just as hard, but these two gentlemen happened to be at the legislature. That's why I say these men. These men fought like they fought a war. They fought hand-to-hand combat to keep the House members and Senate members alive, literally alive, and to keep democracy from ending that day. And so what did these so-called Republicans do? Boo them, jeer them, make fun of them, throw slurs at them, walk out on them? This is not the law and order party. Are you shitting me? This is not the law and order party. It's a corporation. Whatever they need to do to make the rich richer and for their asses to stay in power and make money along the way. Think Mitch McConnell became a billionaire by accident? Think Clarence Thomas telling you that he's taken a couple $1 million from a billionaire when actually it's been more like 4 or 5 million? Think that happened by accident? When do you get angry, folks? When does the section of the country that continues to vote for this shit get angry? Because it's happening right in front of you. In daylight, it's happening. Go ahead, Randall.
No problem, man. No problem, Jeff. Listen, another thing I want to talk about real quick was the environment. We are just burning up more and more each year. Storms are just getting worse and worse this year. Doesn't matter if it's a hurricane or tornadoes.
Correct.
I mean, last week right here in PA, there was tornadoes again.
There were tornadoes in Schuylkill County. And if you're not from Pennsylvania, you're not familiar with Schuylkill County. Randall, tell me, tell me what you think here. Schuylkill County, not exactly the most flat county in PA. It's mountainous, right? Or at a minimum, it's hilly. right? It's not flat farmland. When I was a kid, and we learned about weather and we learned about tornadoes, we were taught that tornadoes generally happen in the Midwest because it's flat. And when they run into mountains, they dissipate. And that tornadoes can't cross bodies of water. We had a tornado here in southeast PA, went through Bucks County, PA, just south of where I live, maintained itself across the Delaware River and ripped into Jersey.
Yep.
So
Yes.
Schuylkill is not the flattest county you're ever going to see. I'm not telling you it's Colorado. It's not. But it's not flat farmland. It's not Nebraska, Iowa, flat corn farmland either. And yet this tornado went up and down hills and continued to rip through Schuylkill County. Tornadoes are now a regular occurrence here in Pennsylvania.
They're regular occurrence here in the Mid-Atlantic and New England now.
Yep. Jersey gets them too. Yep.
Yep.
You're right.
That one last week created
Yep.
the tornado in Jersey. Yeah.
You're right. I can't see what the hell time it is. 8:40. Go ahead. You got a couple more minutes. What else you got in the plate?
Well, I've gotten on my plate. Number one, I'm glad that you and Kristen, that you've gotten a little better health-wise. And
Enough to sit here and scream more expletives than I usually do.
Yeah.
Although I hear the S word thrown out on the news now. I mean, Joe Scarborough says it almost every day, and I see it thrown out like during primetime TV, which again, I'm aging myself, but I don't know. Maybe it's not a cuss word anymore. I don't know.
Well, I think we're back to the biggie that George
George Carlin. Yeah. Right.
7 words you can't say.
Exactly.
But I hope that a lot of people watch the reviewing of this because it was very good. Hearing from 2 guests that I've never heard from before, and I want to commemorate you again for being PA State Democratic representative for the party.
Well, we'll see if it continues. They're coming for my seat, so let's see if it continues.
Yeah, I'm sure somebody's coming for your seat.
Oh, they are.
Yeah, a lifelong Democrat, and you being a lifelong Democrat, I appreciate what you've done. Totally appreciate what you've done, my brother. Totally.
Before I let you go, let me remind you, and I hope that you heard some of the news early in the first hour. I know sometimes you don't always get the first hour. You're having dinner with the family. The show's going to be expanding to weeknights.
Oh, wow. Congratulations.
5 nights a week. 8 o'clock. I might have to rethink that and maybe make it 7, but because I try to go to bed. I'm old and I try to go to bed because I have to work for a living. But 8 o'clock, 5 nights a week. We're going to do an hour each night, just 8 to 9. The Kennedy Effect tonight, TKE tonight, starts July 1st, 8 p.m. They're probably 8 p.m. Like I said, maybe I'll talk about 7. I'm starting to rethink 8, but because I try to be in bed usually by 9. I sure as hell won't go to bed if I'm on the air for an hour. I'll get all worked up. But that said, the program expands. There is a link in the comments section of this program on my Facebook. I need to drop that same link at that other side of information, but I dropped it in the link of the program. Check it out. Program is expanding. We'll be with you 6 days a week. It's going to be a lot, but we will be with you 6 days a week, 5 nights a week, 8 to 9. We'll be back here on Sundays with you live here and on Hot 101 as well. So stay tuned for more information about that. It's only 3 weeks. Stay tuned for more info. George and I got a lot of work to do, a real lot of work to do, and a lot of electronic testing and all that fun, happy stuff. I won't swear again. Randall, let me see. We got 10 minutes. If you got anything else, shoot it out there quick.
Yeah, everybody get out there and vote blue. Across the board, down from the president in November, down here in PA from U.S. U.S. senators, and reelect and expand of our Democratic U.S. houses and state house candidates in November.
Thank you, my friend. Please take care of yourself. Take care of your health, would you please?
You too. Give a kiss to Christine for me, please.
Hey, now. No, I'm kidding.
What?
I'm kidding.
I know you're kidding. I know you're kidding, bro. I know. And
Her one, and it's a really, really good one. And I say that's from Randall. She's gonna walk out the house. You take care of yourself, please. My best to the family. I hope they listen as well. I don't know if the kids are the political animals that you and I are, but I hope they listen after your cajoling and
my kids all vote blue. My son-in-law is all vote blue.
Good.
And my grandkids, since I got married so late in life, my oldest is just going to be 11 in September. But I am educating them. And that's the key word, education.
Yep. It is not, it's never too young to talk about fairness and justice and equality.
Nope.
I remember having a discussion with one of my brothers-in-law. He was kind of a brother-in-law from when I was married. So we're not like related, but we were, family were together and boy, he just went on a streak the one day. He was in high school still at that point. Just went on an absolute streak one day about Limbaugh. And he said this and he said that and he said that. I said, you know what? None of that is true. But I will give you credit that Limbaugh's an entertainer. He does make you want to listen. But everything you said is false. And I went on for about 15, 20 minutes and knocked everything down and explained all the history behind it, went all through it. And he said, you know what? You really gave me something to think about. I said, I'm not here to lecture you or to make you think the way I think. But you gotta research. You gotta do some research. You gotta read. You gotta learn. You gotta know the history behind these policies. If you research these issues and the policy solutions that are being proposed to solve them, and after all of that research, you come down to the fact that, you know what, I'm a Republican, then you know what, okay. But for God's sakes, don't be one because some fat, bloated guy whose daddy owned a radio station and gave him a show and who had no history in politics. He just found a niche that if he started saying this right-wing crazy shit, that billionaires would give him money. And very much like Nazi-esque propaganda, had to keep saying more and more and more outrageous things to keep people listening. Not because he believed in any of it, but it made him money. That's how Ben Shapiro makes money. It's how Hannity makes money. So Laura Ingraham makes money. Glenn Beck. Prager. Do they actually believe any of the shit they spew? I doubt it, but they know it makes money. I could do that in 10 seconds. Sergeant Mack could make money in about 3 seconds. As a black man who served in the military, if he started spewing the shit that Ben Shapiro does, he'd be a billionaire in about 10 days. But he doesn't believe it. So he can't say it. And he knows it's wrong. He knows that history, science, facts, and data prove it all wrong. That's why I can't say it to you. Because it's all wrong. So it's not about indoctrinating anybody. It's about education. If Randall's 11-year-old learns all the lessons and listens to everything that Randall tells him and somehow and uses the Google machine and does all the research and everything and decides, you know what? Sorry, Grandpa, I don't agree. Well, then God bless that kid. But you got to do the research. Don't think the way they tell you to think. Think. Think because people who do what I do prompted you to think, not because I'm telling you what to think. I don't want anybody to agree with me just because I said it. Take what I said, Google it, learn, and then come on over to my tent. It's a big tent, and we'd be happy to have you. And it also doesn't mean that we have to agree about everything. Randall, I'm going to say good night, my friend.
Good night, my friend. And George, thank you for joining us, even off screen. Love you both. Love you all. God bless. Good night.
Take care of yourself, sir. Speaking of George, welcome, sir. Thank you for being here. We got about 3 minutes before we hand it over to the villain's view.
Mm-hmm.
Anything you want to throw in there?
The camera looks good. It makes you really look good. You actually have color.
You know what
You
I
have color in your face. I can't believe that.
No,
So,
I don't
for the first time.
I don't have. I have no.
Either that or you've been like yelling all night. So.
Well, I have been. I've been very wound up, and I don't understand why. But that said, the only thing I'm not certain with this. So the only way I could get the camera to work was through Zoom. The computer doesn't recognize it. So that's very interesting. And I do seem like I'm on a curve. Like the wall behind me is somehow curving away from me.
Okay.
I'm not sure about that. That's a little weird, but it's nice that it works. So, George, I was telling the folks that our program is going to be expanding dramatically, and that you and I have a hell of a lot of testing work to do, and that we will be with the good folks weeknights from 8 to 9, probably 8 to 9, because I think I locked myself into that now. Oh, and by the way, I would like to tell people that I continue to try to share this program throughout the program. When Facebook told me I could share it again, and I'm still blocked out. There's probably about 20 or 30 groups I never got able to share the program to because Facebook's having a thing. But that said, so I don't know. Are you excited? You and I are going to be here 6 days a week.
I want a 1 cent raise per year, and that's going to be 1 cent a year.
Yeah.
Not going to be a 1 cent raise. It's just going to be raised to 1
It's going to be raised from 0 to 1 cent. The beauty of that is that if I do get you up to 1 cent, I have something to cut.
That's true.
No, I mean, you can't take blood from a stone. 0.
Unless unless it's like a fraction of a,
right. Yeah.
No, a fraction of a Bitcoin. We could do that.
Take a hay penny from you.
Yeah. There you go.
But anyway, George is going to be with me for this ride. We're doing this together. The new venture where the program is going to air during the week, George will be here for it. This is, he and I are this program. He's more of this program than any of you realize. It is never as good a program when he's not here. So I might be the one who bloviates throughout 3 hours, but it is not the same program when he's not here, and we're taking this ride together. We have a new venture that we are partners in, and I'll tell you more about it as we get closer to July 1st. We're in our last minute, but just know that the program expands to 5 nights a week starting July 1st, and we hope that you will take this ride and join us along the way. We'll have more details as we go. Last minute of the program. I think that's all the damage that we can do for 1 week. We have every intention to be back here with you next week. What the hell is next week? It is the 16th. Oh, it's Father's Day. Guess what? We're not going to be here. Oh my God. I'm taking another 2 weeks. We won't be here next week. I didn't know it was Father's Day. Oh my God. That's insane. Yeah, we won't be here next week. But here's the deal. For everybody at Hot 101, DJ Lex, DJ Earl, Waterboy, everybody at Hot 101, for everybody at TCP, Marquise, Whitney, Taekwon, Andrew, everybody at Hot 101, for Lynn and George Dare, of course, for April Riddick, for Kristen, Daisy the dog, Guy the cat downstairs. I didn't even get to tell you about all Guy's health problems. We've done all the damage we can do for 1 week. Please take care of yourselves and each other. Remember, we go 5 nights a week starting July 1st. We will not be with you next week. We rejoin you on the 23rd. Have a great week. The Villain's View starts right now.